Hi, I'm David Barber. This is the Music Biz on rockoncolorado.com. And today we're going to talk about rehearsal spaces. Okay? Where are you going to practice? Every band needs a place to rehearse. It's got to be big enough to accommodate everyone in the band and all their instruments. It's got to be located where everyone can get there, and it's got to be available at whatever time of day you need to practice, right? It's got to be the kind of place where you can play at full volume without bothering the neighbors, and it's got to be affordable. Okay? That's what you're looking for in a rehearsal space. Now, most bands start out in one band member's basement or garage, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that works, you keep using it as long as you can. A lot of musicians have an entire recording studio set up in their basement or wherever, and if you've got somebody in your band that's got that, keep them in the band, unless you can't. That'll keep the costs down, and it usually works out pretty good. I know a band that lives in a warehouse. It's awesome. They've got living space, they got bedrooms, but most of the space is taken up by their recording studio, and they also rehearse there. It's fantastic, and it's a great place to throw a party. Unfortunately, not every band can pull that off. If it's not your parents complaining about the music, it's the neighbors complaining about pot smoke billowing out of the windows, or the degenerate lowlifes, musicians, frequenting the cul-de-sac. That's when it's time to go out and rent a rehearsal space. There are basically two kinds of rehearsal spaces. There's the kind you rent by the month, and there's the kind you rent by the hour. There's good ones and bad ones in both categories. The spaces you can rent by the hour are usually a little bit nicer, and a lot of them come with gear already there. So all you gotta do is bring your acts. Some of them have drum kits and guitar amps, bass amps. It's awesome. You don't have to lug all your amps in there. You just show up and play. Now on the downside, you're not going to be practicing on your own amp or your own drums or whatever. And particularly if you're a drummer and you need more than just the standard 5-piece kit, it's not the same, right? You're not going to be comfortable. But that doesn't mean you can't do it. Additionally, if you want to just kick back and drink a few beers, write some songs, well, there's always that clock ticking. You know? Do you have time to bullshit about the day's events when you're paying by the hour? Yes or no? Maybe you do. That'd be great. A lot of these kind of places have a set period during which they're open and closed. So, if you want to be there until 2 in the morning, you may be out of luck if the place closes at 10 o'clock. You want to know that before you decide to go there. The rent by the hour places are really good if you're maybe a band that's played a lot and you just need to rehearse up a song or two. You don't need to spend hours and hours and hours there, and you don't want to fraternize. You just want to go in, get a few songs down, and be done. If you're only going to be there for a few hours a week, like 2 or 3 hours a week, well, renting by the hour is probably going to end up being cheaper than renting by the month. But it kind of depends on how much you use it. There's pros and cons. Monthly rental spaces can be harder to come by. Most of them are tucked away into old warehouses, defunct factories, places like that. They can be in dicey neighborhoods with alley-only access, and they might have been trashed out by previous bands. They might be rat or cockroach infested. They can be smelly. Some of them just downright dangerous. Some of them aren't so bad. A lot of them have little or no security. Others have walls that are so thin it's almost impossible to practice when the death metal band in the next room is practicing, right? When you find a good space, it'll have parking, security doors, sound insulation so you don't hear the other bands and they don't hear you, and a reasonable price. In many cases, you can share this space with another band or even two other bands, and that'll cut your rent way down. But be careful, because the more people who have access to your space, the higher the likelihood that one of them will be a crackhead who will eventually steal everybody's gear. Being able to leave your gear in the space, all set up and ready to go, it's a great advantage. And if you aren't sharing the space, you can use it whenever you want. You can come and go in the middle of the night, early in the morning, whatever's convenient, handy for you and your band. If you go with the monthly space, make sure they have great security. That's the most important thing. If you're going to leave your gear there, make sure it's still going to be there when you come back. Also make sure that you don't have any homeless or couch surfing band members who might end up trying to live there. That's a bad thing. Also be really careful to pay the rent on time every month. If you don't, the landlord may have every right to just lock you out, change the locks, and keep your instruments until you pay him off. If you don't pay, even after he locks you out, he may have the right to just sell your gear in order to pay the bill. That's a bad way to lose your gear. And getting locked out unexpectedly can be a real problem when you show up to load your gear in for a gig and discover you're locked out, and now you can't play your gig because you can't get to your gear. Don't want to have to cancel a gig over an unpaid bill. Make sure it gets paid. If one band member is assigned to take care of paying the rent, make damn sure that guy or gal will follow through and be dependable. Okay? Make sure it's someone with a good day job or otherwise has no financial problems. That's the best advice I can give you there. Here's a real life story. I knew this local band. They were renting a space by the month. They'd been there for years. They shared the space with one other band. One day they showed up and most of the gear was gone. After a little detective work over the course of several months, and by the way, the cops weren't much help with this, they finally figured out who the thief was. It was a crackhead who was a friend of the other band that was using the space, and he'd been in there hanging out while the other band was rehearsing and saw where the windows were and things like that. And so he's the one who broke in through the window, crawled through, unlocked the door, and loaded the gear out. Now they actually got the guy arrested. They went to the cops and they got the guy arrested and convicted. However, by then he'd already disposed of most of the gear. So there were a lot of prized possessions, old guitars and awesome amps, just gone. And they didn't get it back. There's actually a victim assistance program in this town. The criminal makes payments to them, and then that pays the band guys off. Well, the band guys are getting paid like $10 a piece every month, and it'll be like 30 years before their gear is paid for. It's just terrible. But that's not the worst of it. The worst of it was that they lost their master recordings. They had been working for a couple of years on a new CD, and they had most of it recorded, mixed down, just about ready to be manufactured. And that got stolen and never recovered. Don't let that happen to you. I'm David Barber. This is the Music Biz, rockoncolorado.com. There's a whole lot more of these podcasts and a book. So please, go to rockoncolorado.com. Thanks. Goodbye.